Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld. Now with 50% less odor, here's what's coming up. Confession in Philadelphia. Cops say this gunman acted in the name of Islam. Lone shooters, soft targets. Is this terror in 2016? Plus, the Netflix series Making a Murderer. Boo. Like a rash on spring break, you can't escape it. We'll talk to a guy who covered the Avery trial as it happened. And did Hillary Clinton tell an aide to send her classified info to a non-secure account? An email apparently shows she did. Whoops. And the most honest man in America.
Your numbers are lucky, though, am I right?
I hope so.
Can I ask you, if you won all the money, what would you do with it?
Bunch of hookers and cocaine.
Those are priorities. Let's get started, America. I'm getting my eyebrows threaded at 11. Let's welcome tonight's guests. He's a Fox with friends. It's Fox and Friends weekend co-anchor Tucker Carlson. She's as sassy as I am gassy. It's Meghan McCain, Fox News contributor and host of America Now Radio. Well, he filled my shoes and then your hearts. He's the host of Red Eye. Here on FNC, it's Tom Shillue. And her only nutrients come from the olives in her martini, the very sad Joanne Nosuchinsky. And she divides her time between loving nothing and hating everything. It's National Review reporter Katherine Timpf. But first, oh, that was nice. So a Philadelphia police officer shot in another example of random gun violence on the streets of America. As you see in this photo, the officer was just sitting in his car when he was shot by a guy in a white coat, obviously a pharmacist, because clearly that's not Muslim garb. And the gun, of course, made him do it. Still, the police jumped to conclusions, saying the ambush appears to be ISIS-inspired because, you know, the perp said it was ISIS-inspired.
The suspect in question is a 30-year-old male from Yaden. He has a Philadelphia address as well, I believe. Has confessed to committing this cowardly act in the name of Islam. According to him, he believed that the police defend laws that are contrary to the teachings of the Quran.
So he was dressed like a Muslim, pledged his allegiance to ISIS, and spent time in the Middle East. Clearly, the NRA is to blame. Or climate change, because according to Philly's odd new mayor, it has nothing to do with you-know-what.
In no way, shape, or form does anyone in this room believe that Islam or the teaching of Islam has anything to do with what you've seen on that screen. That is abhorrent. It's terrible, and it does not represent the religion in any way, shape, or form or any of its teachings.
I repeat, the attack has nothing to do with Islam, and cirrhosis has nothing to do with bourbon. Let's watch the mayor again and see the poor chief behind him.
In no way, shape, or form does anyone in this room believe that Islam or the teaching of Islam has anything to do with what you've seen on that screen. That is abhorrent. It's terrible.
What could he be thinking? I'm guessing this mayor is full of The suspect, Edward Archer, fired at Officer Jesse Hartnett using a stolen cop gun. The officer is in critical but stable condition. The suspect was then shot, yet another example of gun violence by the police, the mayor might think. After all, that's how he labeled the initial attack, not as terror, but as gun crime, a coward's approach to jihadism that conveniently avoids judging the actions of others. You don't need to condemn radical Islam when it's the gun's fault. It's the latest incarnation of Islamophobia, phobia, denying facts for fear of appearing bigoted. And so we must watch our behavior, but not theirs. And then, of course, we move on. Remember San Bernardino? It's the forgotten terror attack that led to a presidential seminar on gun control, which seems to me like the wrong approach. As we've hardened large targets, the only soft targets left are us. So how do we defend ourselves? I say give peace a chance by learning to use one. Period. Tucker, let's examine the motive of the mayor. Is there any legitimate reason why he would say that? About, like, it has nothing to do with this. Maybe that's the right thing to say.
Well, I mean, he's a progressive politician, so his first instinct, wake him up from a dead sleep, is to lie and demand that you become complicit in his lie by pretending to agree with it. So that's part of what's going on. People are overlooking, though, the political motive, and this applies to the Hillary Clinton campaign. This guy got elected this month. He was a city councilman for a long time, in part with a coalition that included Muslim groups and their endorsements, and he signed pledges to be nice to Muslims, etc. They're a key part of his constituency. The Muslim population in America is growing really quickly. You see this in Europe. You see it in Great Britain, where politicians are afraid to denounce Islamists because they're a key voting bloc. You see it in the Hillary campaign. That is part of it. It's not the whole answer. You described the rest of it, but it is part of it.
You know, it's funny, Meghan. So by saying it has nothing to do with Islam, he's almost conflating it with Islam. He should say this is radical Islam.
Yeah.
This is not Islam. But instead, he's saying, "Whoa, I don't want to piss off all Muslims, so I'm going to just deny the elephant in the room." And the elephant in the room is radical Islam.
Yeah, I don't know how we expect to win any fight on terror, ISIS, if we can't even identify what's going on. He went back and forth to Saudi Arabia. All the reports out said he screamed about ISIS before he shot the police officer. I don't know at what point people are going to start waking up to reality, but we talk about it all the time. It's political correctness completely run amok.
It's true, Tom. It's run amok. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think I'm thinking too much about this stuff? I'm obsessing over these new attacks, and I'm wondering, am I overstating the risk?
Well, we're all thinking about it too much. Maybe it's because we have people like this mayor who are, it's the opposite of that old boy who cried wolf fable. This is like a wolf attacks a village every day, and there's a kid out there saying, there's no wolf, there's no wolf, that wasn't a wolf. And then, and it's like, no one knows what to do anymore. So we have to talk about it because, everyone's in denial.
Yes, it's so true. Joanne, it's an interesting contrast to, say, climate change, where you are encouraged to see the apocalyptic consequences of climate change. But in this case, it's like, you know what? It has nothing to do with this at all. It's gun crime.
I mean, yeah, you can call it whatever you want. It doesn't make us any safer. You could say it's road rage because it happened in the street.
True.
Yeah. You could say it's, a sports fanatic because Philly is full of them. But the thing is, the way I see it is, Islam, like alcohol, in my opinion, is inherently good.
Yeah.
But some people get drunk and they commit awful, awful crimes. Does that crime that happened mean that alcohol is to blame? No, it's the person who got so drunk off of it and ruined other people's lives.
I love the fact that you tied it to booze.
Yeah. When I think Islam, I just go there.
Yeah, exactly. But it's an interesting fact. You know what the thing is? Any kind of extremism goes to a bad place, is what you're saying. So extremism behavior with alcohol goes to a bad place. Extreme negativity, like from Kat, is always bad. Kat, what can we do? I mean, is this going to be the new approach to terror, is to always say it's gun violence?
Absolutely. People are so hell-bent on blaming it on guns that they've become disconnected from reality. Based on some of the solutions they're coming up with, the dumbest things ever, like the gun registry. So burglars should be able to look and see who has a gun when deciding who to rob. Great idea. You guys are doing a great job. It's got to change because less and less safe every time this happens.
But I want to point out, that's why I like the gun registry, because then people are going to buy guns because they don't want burglars to come to their house. If you have a gun registry, then burglars look at it, they're going to go, well, you know what, maybe I better get a gun so I don't get invaded, because burglars are less inclined to go to a place that's armed. I want to move on to the next story because this is just absolutely ridiculous. In Germany, which is a country, let's get that clear. I want to make that clear to everybody at home. There was a big demonstration this weekend outside the Cologne train station where a massive sex assault took place on New Year's Eve. German police used water cannons to disperse the protesters. So where were these water cannons on New Year's Eve? That's when 1,000 men described as North African or Arab carried out their attacks. Police say they received 120 criminal complaints of sexual assault. Of the 31 suspects identified so far, 18 came to Germany seeking asylum from Middle Eastern countries. Here's the thing. German Chancellor and Time Person of the Year, Angela Merkel, has all but rolled out the red carpet for refugees, and critics have accused police and government officials of sweeping this mass assault under the rug. And to add insult to injury, the mayor of Cologne, Henrietta Recker, cautioned women to keep an arm's length from male strangers, which is so easy to do when there are 1,000 of them. How ironic that the mayor of Cologne stinks. Oh. Thank you, America. I think we should just end the show there, Meghan, with that thing. So this is amazing. What's going on right now in Germany? They're selling out of pepper spray because they don't trust, because the police can't protect from these mobs. This is crazy. What are the American feminists? I blame them.
I don't think you have to be a feminist or not a feminist to not to want to be sexually assaulted in the street. And everything that's happening in Germany is exactly what everyone feared would happen in the United States of America. Angela Merkel, Time Magazine's Woman of the Year, the feminist of the ages, the icon of all times, is having to deal with this. And there's a lot of pushback, if you will. And when I was reading up on this, they're actually thinking about showing Muslim men sex education classes because that's how repressed they are and how out of touch with the world that we live in is, and it's just, I don't know, it's horrific, it's scary, and thank God I'm an American right now.
Yeah, it's like thank God thank God you're born here moment.
I agree with you completely. It's really going to take until ISIS calls for repealing Roe v. Wade. I think feminists will continue to ignore it. And by the way, this is what the future looks like here.
Yeah.
The real threat to massive migration from this region is not that we're all going to die in terror attacks. We're probably not. And if we do, it's over quick. The threat is that your culture corrodes to the point where you can't go outside without worrying about being groped, where you can't say what you really think for fear of offending somebody, where there's no cohesion at all, where everyone hates one another and is suspicious of one another. This is multiculturalism run amok.
There you go, run amok. Twice now.
No, I'm sorry, it's true, and I stole it from you.
Yeah, no, it was Meghan who said it.
No, but this is the fruit of it. Like, nothing binds the society together. And who wants to live in a place like that? Nobody.
Yeah, hey, Tom, do you envision articles titled, "Why do they rape us?" It used to be, "Why do they hate us?" Now it'll be, "Why do they rape?" It's going to be our fault. Why do they surround Western women?
Why stop at men? Look at the whole human race, right? It's humans. Aren't humans the problem, Greg?
Well, dolphins too.
Yeah.
Dolphins rape. We know that.
And
they do.
I know.
Her advice is to keep men at arm's length, as if that helps at all. I mean, don't women do that already? I can't get on the subway. Women have their arms out. They won't let me near them.
You are a creepy-looking man.
Oh, is that why?
Yes, absolutely.
Wait a minute.
Tom.
Women don't keep all men at arm's length?
No. Just you. You are a creepy-looking man, Tom. And I mean that in the best possible way. You look like a really nice guy who then kills people at night. It's true. We've discussed this.
It's kind of a John Wayne Gacy vibe.
Yeah. A skinny one. A very skinny one. A less attractive Ted Bundy, if you will.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry. Joanne, you're a young woman.
Yeah.
For a while, anyway. Are you bothered by the idea? Are you bothered by the idea that, like, the mayor of Cologne, which is, by the way, a lot like the mayor of Philly, who they're more obsessed with your behavior, how you're going to change your behavior, whether it's in Philly, don't say this, don't say that, or in Cologne, do not, stay at arm's length, than the actual behavior of the bad people.
You hope that refugees or migrants will assimilate to the culture that they're then in. But not only do they not want to assimilate, they want to destroy the culture. They want to destroy the respect that surrounds all of the people who are in that community. And
it's not everybody in the Middle East.
No,
it's
the ones who do stuff like this.
It's a pernicious, toxic strain of Islam. It's a radicalism that hates success and envy. They look at, instead of like learning from progress, they want to destroy it.
Definitely the destruction aspect for sure, but just even being a woman, the respect is completely different. I could not wear this in many countries.
Yeah.
So
you can barely wear it now.
I'm gonna go.
No, I'm kidding. But I mean, look, Arab Spring, Kat, we saw this. This was happening, and now it's being exported. We saw this in Tahrir Square. Numbers of journalists being molested and raped. So now it's coming here. And we have to turn a blind eye and pretend it's not happening?
Yeah, how must these women feel? Basically what they're telling them is, yeah, that's bad, but you know what, we don't want to be politically incorrect, so that's actually more important than your safety or what you went through. That's somehow less offensive than just saying, hey, let's look at everything here. Yes, Tom, they're definitely all men.
Yes.
But they also have something else in common that we need to discuss, or we're really saying we don't care about women.
Right. Speaking of women, an interesting protest in Cologne, a nude protester. This is pretty gutsy, not only because she's out there naked, probably not the best way to do this, but it's freezing out there. And she went out there to protest the attacks, holding a sign and naked. This is where you just don't have a comment because
Well, I don't think you're giving credit to the photographer who braved
By the way,
to take pictures.
the amazing thing is all the men pretending to be photographers for newspapers and magazines. Suddenly, they're interested in the story. All right, we got to go. Still ahead. President Obama hears from opponents of his new gun control measures. But does he listen? Interesting. About 5 weeks following the terror attack in San Bernardino, President Obama made an emotional pitch for his executive action plan for gun control on Tuesday. He's calling for more intense background checks for those who want to purchase guns and requiring all licensed and unlicensed gun dealers to be registered to close the so-called gun show loophole. Later in the week, he attended a town hall meeting and heard from a rape survivor, Kimberly Corbin, who wants to protect her family.
I have been unspeakably victimized once already, and I refuse to let that happen again to myself or my kids. So why can't your administration see that these restrictions that you're putting to make it harder for me to own a gun or harder for me to take that where I need to be is actually just making my kids and I less safe?
You have to be pretty well trained in order to fire a weapon against somebody who is assaulting you and catches you by surprise. And what is also true is there's always the possibility that that firearm in a home leads to a tragic accident.
Okay, while I completely credit the president for facing a tough question from an amazing woman, his answer seems shaky to me. That's because he's saying that because such protection can be used against you, it might be better to have no protection at all. Maybe a baseball bat or a golf club instead. I don't know. Meghan, yeah. I have to say, you know, I questioned the timing of this, but I can't question the fact that that took guts for him to face these questions, which I thought were pretty tough questions. Am I wrong?
I mean, I would have liked to have had an NRA representative there, a few more Republicans.
He was invited, but he turned it down. He felt he was being set up.
If the NRA came back and said that we would have had a small segment, I would like him to do a town hall on a network like this and talk to a lot more Americans than just that young woman who was very brave to talk, and Chris Kyle's widow, who also did an amazing job. My biggest problem, President Obama freely admits to never owning a gun. Lest we forget, when he was running for president, he said the Americans that cling to God and their guns. This is goes far beyond him understanding Second Amendment rights. This is a cultural thing he doesn't understand.
True.
As a woman, he doesn't understand how a woman would feel more protected owning a gun, having a gun in your apartment. It's like trying to talk to someone. It's like trying to talk to a person like President Obama about this issue, and there's no way to get any kind of middle ground. I thought the whole thing was kind of dumb. I think you can see that in his response about assuming that a lot of these people can't handle guns, like without proper training. He doesn't realize that people all across America with guns actually go to the range. She probably, born and raised.
It's part of their life. All right, Tucker, this is where I agree with President Obama, and I know you're going to rip me to shreds on this.
Yeah, probably.
If you look at the A block that we did about the stolen police gun that was used against this police officer by this Islamist, why not a tracking device that President Obama talks about? If there was a tracking device on that police officer's gun, stolen gun, we would have had that gun, right?
Maybe, and that's fine. You can put tracking devices on police officers' guns. Just don't put them on my gun.
Okay.
It's absolutely none of your business. All of this is an attempt to...
Would you put a tracking thing on your car so you can find out if it's stolen?
Of course not. I mean, it'd be my choice. I'm not interested in having a tracking device in my car. All of us have them anyway.
Right.
It's not our choice. They come that way from the manufacturer, unfortunately.
But you live with it.
That's the point. I live with it because I have no choice.
Right.
I don't want it applied to my firearms. It's absolutely nobody's business. This is an attempt to disarm the population because a disarmed population is much more compliant. But the supposition at the core of this is just wrong, and that is that increased gun ownership correlates to higher crime rates.
Right.
And that is false. If that were true, Montana would have the highest crime rate. It has one of the lowest. This is stupid. He knows nothing about guns. And by the way, simultaneously, he's sparing no expense in protecting himself. And neither is every committee chairman in Congress, every cabinet secretary. They'll do whatever it takes using tax dollars to keep their families safe. At the same time, try to disarm my family. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy nut, but that's a very ugly thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you have kids at Sidwell Friends and you've got Secret Service everywhere, you got guns at that CNN debate, that was a CNN town hall that was completely surrounded. So you're right. I agree with you on that. But I still would. I think the thing that bugged me most, Tom, is I would be okay with the gun thing if it hadn't been linked to a terror attack San Bernardino is how this whole started, which seems to me incredibly incorrect. And where is the one on terror? Where is the town hall on terror?
Well, I know. I mean, obviously, he doesn't want to have a town hall on terror. He's obsessed with guns and climate change. That's what he's going to ride till the end of his presidency. You know what? Watching this Q&A session, so-called, it made me realize that Americans are really good now, because of people like you and me. They're really good at just stating their opinion as a question. They start off and they say, you know, why is it that blah, 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 you know, or it says, why can't your administration, and then she goes on and she makes her political point. And everyone knows how to do that now.
Yes.
At the debates and the town halls.
Yeah, that is so true.
It should just be you and me, Greg.
Yeah, it is. All right, I believe, too, Joanne, I don't think there was anything really new that he's trying to push. He's just being more emotional about previous things like background checks.
Well, I don't know if this is new, but he said that he does want to make sure that there are more background check staffers, like more people doing background checks, which I'm okay with. We are gun sales are up, so you need more background checks. If they can happen in a more timely manner and make them more efficient, I'm all for that. And jobs, great. But yeah, otherwise, he's doing this again, kind of like you said, in climate change, because it appeals to emotions more than terror or national security, I think, does, unfortunately. I think we're all very concerned about it, but most of the country, you know, is more tied to what the media shows, which is, you know, these awful shootings that happen. And I think that he realizes his time is running out, and he just wants to really have his name on something. And he realizes it can only be these insignificant, small changes.
Well, it's almost like if he's looking at his legacy of climate change in guns and ignoring maybe national security stuff, it's a bit selfish, but maybe he truly believes in these things. Kat, were there many facts about guns discussed in this? Because I didn't watch it.
No, I don't. I think that what we need to be talking about is the way that Obama mansplained to that woman. Seriously, though, he's saying, well, look, listen, chickadee, I know you think you can handle a gun, but you'd probably blow your own face off. Trust me. I, as a man, know that you would not be safe. So that is sexist and that is offensive, and we should not let him get away with it.
That, you know, if you do the corollary of if this were about abortion. Oh, yeah. And a woman stood up and said that she had been raped and she was impregnated and had the abortion by a relative or whatever. And a president saying, here's the issue, and starts explaining to her why, the problems with abortion, hell would break loose.
Hold on a second, little lady.
Yeah, exactly.
I preface it by saying.
All right. It's a long story. Making a Murderer. We wasted hours watching it, but how different was the actual trial from what you saw on Netflix? We'll talk to a guy who was actually there for the whole thing. It's more popular than kittens, cartwheels, and crystal meth combined. The Netflix documentary series Making a Murderer tells the story of a Wisconsin man who spent 18 years in prison for a rape he didn't commit, only to be later convicted of murder in a separate case following his release. For those of you who haven't seen it, we now pause to show you all 10 hours of it uninterrupted.
Stephen Avery spent 18 years in prison for something he didn't do.
DNA had come through indicating that he had not committed the crime.
We were getting ready to bring a lawsuit.
It's $36 million. Manitowoc County itself and the sheriff and the DA would be on the hook for those damages.
Do we have a body or anything yet?
I don't believe so.
We have Stephen Avery in custody, though.
Since the show's release, several key pieces of evidence that were left out of the documentary have come to light, namely that Stephen Avery called the victim 3 times the day she went missing and tried to hide his phone number. DNA from his sweat was found on her car, and the bullet linked to the victim's DNA was forensically tied to Avery's gun. Joining me to discuss is someone who spent more than 5 weeks watching this case unfold live and was responsible for tracking the arguments and evidence on both sides. Brian Tully was a producer for WGBA TV in Wisconsin, covering the trial back in 2007. He's now Fox and Friends producer. Brian, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So your job, what was your job each day?
I was the producer for 9 to 5 o'clock for every day of the court trial. We had to watch it, take notes on it. We carried it live whenever we took a commercial break, monitor it, write down what happened, and come back and summarize it. It was intense, and it was not nearly as exciting as this series portrays it.
So what is the difference between what the viewer is seeing and what you saw?
Well, we saw something that was definitely a lot more, it was boring.
Yeah.
At times. I mean, there were days at a time where they would debate over what evidence would be allowed, what wouldn't be allowed. You know, we had to wait days between different things.
And that is key, because some of the stuff that wasn't included is the stuff that showed the dude might be guilty.
Exactly. The jury's taken out of the room for an evidence hearing, whether it'll be allowed or not. And when the media has to watch hours of this testimony, will this be allowed? Will this not be allowed? It makes you wonder, well, what are their true motives? Why are they arguing so hard to get rid of this or that?
Like, it's amazing. Like, he actually greeted the victim in a bath towel. He had her come there and greet. He creeped this girl out. He was calling her. They found non-blood DNA on the hatch of her car after she was killed.
But the difference here is all these things were introduced in court. They were left out of the documentary.
Yes, they were left out of the documentary. So this is where it's interesting to me. I call myself a futon detective. This is somebody who watches this and thinks he knows the case. When I watched the entire show over 24 hours. I watched it. I was convinced the guy should be free. Then I started reading about the stuff that wasn't in the documentary, and I felt cheated. I felt that I was lied to when I read about the DNA, the sweat. A cop can't plant that. I mean, why were these things left out? Because it would have ruined the documentary, right?
Well, maybe I don't know that it would have ruined it, but I think it's also the filmmakers. Let's compare it to the filmmakers and how they put the documentary together. They stayed with the Averys and interviewed them in person. All the stuff you see on TV or on Netflix rather, that is the interviews with the family, none of that has ever been public. I mean, this is stuff that the media has never seen before.
Right.
And it's shocking to us, too. We never saw that side of them. They were totally different people in public.
Yeah.
And then the sympathetic ma and pa that you're looking at in this series. So when these filmmakers put it together, staying with them and telling only their side of the story, they didn't really interview anybody else. I think that there's a chance that they're not getting all the information, which is what happened to you when you only watched the series.
I fell for it, and the thing is, what they left out, what about Teresa, the victim? I mean, there wasn't much about the victim and her story and her family.
There was so much that we saw. The family made themselves available. They welcomed our reporters into their houses. They would talk every single day after court, which the defense lawyers did as well. But I think that if they're going to speculate that perhaps someone else did this, then don't you think that the producers should use her photo a little bit more and show some interviews with the family and help find the person who did it?
It just seems like this was an agenda-driven documentary from the start.
I don't know if there was an agenda intentionally. I would say that for the first year of the case, when we watched, all we had to go on was Ken Kratz's press conference, which was horrific. We didn't see the tape suggesting that was inaccurate for a year and a month until after that had taken place. So, you know, the media for a long time thought that was the story that was happening.
Brian, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Don't go anywhere. We got more awesome stuff on the way.
You're about to lose.
Yep, time once again for You're About to Lose. It's the debate with a preordained winner. That's me. Yes, there's no way I can lose, even if I have absolutely no facts. And you are right. If you want to win, get your own show. Tonight's topic, the Netflix series Making a Murderer. It's the biased piece of tripe that tries to transform a rapist killer into an innocent martyr. I think the documentary's hero, Stephen Avery, is guilty as hell. And I'm right. But just for fun, I've invited some folks who disagree, just so I can embarrass the hell out of them. Joanne's still watching, but is leaning toward guilty, I think. Arguing for the losing side is criminal defense attorney Remy Spencer and our very own futon detective, Katherine Timpf. All right, Remy, I want to spend some time with you because you defend, your entire career is based on defending scumbags. It's how you pay for your Tiffany jewelry and your Maseratis and your expensive cognac and your vacations to Club Med, clothing optional. You know that the documentary was biased, yes or no?
I know that the documentary couldn't possibly, in 10 hours, show everything that took place over about 25, 30 years. That's for sure. Yes, some things were left out. But if you look at what was left out, you'll see that all of the compelling evidence that the state had, whatever that was useful and compelling for a conviction, was shown in the documentary.
Yeah, I think, wasn't compelling when they found the victim's Palm Pilot in her camera in a burn barrel belonging to the killer.
Right, and that's the point, right? Everybody agrees that those bones were moved, that she was not burned in the location that they recovered the bones. That wasn't in the documentary.
That place is huge.
Either.
They could have moved her anywhere. But they found his non-blood DNA on the hatch of her car, and which was his cousin.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people are saying that this is the piece of evidence that the filmmakers left out that shows he's guilty. Respectfully, with that opinion I know you have, I disagree, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
The car was seized, right, from the lot. It was kept in law enforcement's possession. You know when they searched the car? Right away. In every single case, they search it right away. In this case, 6 months after they had it, after they were trying to place her in the garage, her DNA, which they couldn't do, which they never effectively did, oh my gosh, we're going to look under the hood. And lo and behold, they find some indiscernible trace of his DNA, and it's not clear what that is.
All right, so what you're saying is, instead of that, this pervert who set a cat on fire, a live cat on fire, dipped it in gas, who'd been involved in other strange perverted crimes. It wasn't him. It was the police that found a tiny bit of non-blood DNA and put it on the hatch.
He may have done all those repulsive things. He may be a bad guy. But because he might have the propensity to commit murder is not evidence that he committed in this case.
We weren't shown all the evidence. Tom, you have something to say.
Greg, the thing is, the thing that's good about this documentary is it's making people do their own sleuthing, which is good.
Why do they sleuth about crimes in their own neighborhood?
I took
Why
a
do they
vial
care
of my
about
own blood.
Oh, my goodness.
I want you to look at how slowly that moves.
Oh, God.
Now, I don't know what that says, but it says something, Greg.
Yeah, so you've been walking around with a vial of your own blood. Are you? This is very strange, and you're creeping Meghan and Joanne out.
I'm not that creeped out.
Well, you would drink if there's alcohol content in there.
It looks like blood.
Actually, you know what's fun, Greg? When you're sitting next to someone like on a train, and then you say, "Do you have any blood?" Oh, I'm sorry, I have some.
But you know what? You're right. You know what he's bringing up? The modern futon detective, and they're almost all women. And you know what the metaphor is? The spinster who fell in love with Stephen Avery when he was in jail is reflective of the bored people watching the show.
Me too. I'm surprised that these viewers, everyone is so sympathetic towards him. Because do we forget Cecil the lion?
Yes.
Or what about Grumpy Cat? Everyone loves these feline animals.
Except the cat that he burns.
Murdered one, and that is glaringly obvious that he has
major issues. He was prosecuted for burning the cat. What this documentary shows us is that the police messed up.
Okay.
They didn't follow protocols.
It could be both. The police made some mistakes. He's a murderer. And if he had burned Grumpy Cat, the internet would go crazy. Catherine, another cat, you agree with me now, don't you?
No, I do not. Okay, I'm a futon detective, and I'm also an American. And I know that in this country, you're supposed to get a fair trial. He was suing people for $36 million that were then allowed to conduct this investigation and determine his fate. Does that sound fair to you, Greg?
Well, yeah, but why
Does that sound like America? Can I get like an American flag flying behind me? Because I am picturing that in my mind right now.
I want to point out to the audience at home that Catherine has...
This is America, Greg.
I want to point out to the viewers at home that Catherine has been writing letters to Stephen Avery, and I think they're getting married.
Letter. It was only one letter. I'm waiting for him to get back to me. I don't want to seem too needy.
All right, we got to talk about the Hillary Clinton email that may be her undoing. The gun is smoking harder than a locomotive made of chimneys. And later, I told Joanne and Katherine to hit the streets. Not only did they come back, turns out they filmed it. We'll see if they learned anything useful. So what's worse, Hillary's emails or her husband's females? A new batch of Hill's emails have been released from her private account, 66 of which have been deemed classified. That's 1/6 short of 666. The State Department claims none of these emails were marked classified at the time they were sent. However, one email from June 2011 shows Clinton telling her top advisor, Jake Sullivan, to send secure info through insecure means. Sullivan writes, "They say they've had issues sending secure fax. They're working on it." She responds, "If they can't, turn into non-paper with no identifying heading and sending non-secure. Translation, Tucker, you break the law, so I don't have to. This is kind of a big deal.
It's on her server, so she broke the law. Look, Republican direct mail guys have been making money for the past year saying, Hillary's going to be indicted. And so my instinct has been to ignore, she's not going to be indicted. She's Hillary Clinton. How is she not indicted, actually, at this point? There's an FBI investigation into whether she broke the Espionage Act, which only requires that you store classified information in an unsecured server. You don't have to do it even knowingly. At this point, can they actually finish this investigation without recommending felony charges? I don't see how. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, this seems pretty bad, Meghan.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't think Hillary Clinton's a liar and something nefarious was going on with her emails at this point, I really don't know what it's going to take, and you're completely delusional. My other favorite thing is I was under the impression that Hillary Clinton was like this grandma that couldn't use her BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Send it to me in a non-secure form with nothing. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I would not know what to say if you were sending me that. She clearly knows a lot about being sent emails that can't be tracked or whatever. I know nothing about technology, but clearly she knows what she's doing and being sent emails she's not supposed to.
That's true. She plays the dumb cop and the smart cop, depending on who's asking her questions. Tom, you're a big Hillary supporter. Does this bother you?
Look, this is really scandal fatigue. They've mastered it. I'm beginning to think the entire Clinton presidency, Bill Clinton, was all just a setup to get Hillary elected. All the scandals, they piled them on. It's like with Trump. He's politically incorrect. He says shocking things because in the end it's going to help him because that's the way he is. Well, she commits scandals.
Yes.
And now no one can deal with it anymore. Greg, I don't like her, and I don't even want to hear about email anymore.
Oh, you know what? I hate you. Joanne, is it going to end up being Sanders versus Trump? Could it be?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
It would be wonderful.
Two great characters.
Yes.
Think of the SNL sketches.
I know.
It would be amazing. I am currently working on a Netflix documentary about Hillary Clinton's emails.
Really?
And the case surrounding that. Because apparently that's the way to get people to find fault with authority figures. Because otherwise she has all these blind mice followers who just... no big deal. No big deal. Even though the evidence is so clearly there that she has done wrong.
That's a good point, Kat. You know what? Where are the Woodward and Bernsteins? Instead of investigating such things, they just wait for the stuff to drop, and then they pick through it like they're at a rummage sale, and then they move on. They act like, oh, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Where is the Woodward and Bernstein?
I don't really get the reference. I'm sorry, I'm young and cool. So I don't get it. But Hillary Clinton, we already know for a fact she's a nightmare. Yeah. We know that she's a liar. We know that she breaks the rules for her own benefit, regardless of how it impacts national security. And people are still going to vote for her, and they're still supporting her, and I don't understand what it is. Because we already know that. What else is there, right? Is it her dazzling charisma? Right? Her girlish charms. I don't know. Maybe that's it. There's nothing to like about this woman. And I personally, on a personal level, judge anybody who supports her.
I think that there may be something else. I mean, the Juanita Broderick thing could end up coming back, too, because it speaks to Hillary's character, not just Bill's. All right. Don't go anywhere. Up next, Joanne and Katherine get people to quit their New Year's resolutions. Because they're stupid. New Year's resolutions, not Joanne and Katherine, of course. Although I'm not too fond of them lately. Yes.
Well, we're just over a week into 2016, which is right around when people start dropping those New Year's resolutions. So Kat and I hit Times Square to encourage everyone to fail completely and embrace their imperfect selves. It also fulfilled our community service hours for January. So, New Year's resolutions. Who made one?
We did.
Okay, what's yours?
To eat healthier.
Okay, yeah, mine is just to start eating.
To go to the gym frequently so I can stay in shape and...
You don't want to go to the gym. I'm going to help you out, break that resolution right now. If you want to be healthy at the gym, gyms are petri dishes for germs and disease. So stay away if you want to be healthy.
My resolution is just to live. Just live, enjoy.
That's great. So you're into mindfulness. It's very, that's the way you get a healthy mind. How much would you charge me to be my therapist?
I don't know.
You know who else is awful at resolutions? Celebrities. So we have a bunch of celebrity resolutions, and you have to guess who failed at what. Who should stop taking pictures of food?
Kim Kardashian?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But also everyone else in the world.
Let go of the past.
Jeb Bush.
No, that's Bill Clinton's resolution for you and for all of us. That's he picks thank you. I love you. I really do.
Okay, who should get a haircut?
Kevin Spacey, I would say.
Wow, so much hate for the space. Wow. No, it's people with man buns.
To stop saying cha-cha-cha during all the pauses and happy birthday.
I don't know.
Jeb Bush.
Oh, Jeb
Doesn't he seem like that kind of a cha-cha-cha kind of guy? Are you a cha-cha-cha kind of guy?
No.
No, nobody likes a cha-cha-cha kind of guy. Stop it, everyone.
Who should stop talking about the show Making a Murderer?
You watch that. You should know this one. I don't know if it's
you. It's all of us. That's right. It's disgusting.
Eat a vegetable.
Eat a vegetable. Oh my goodness. Is that Jeb Bush?
No, that's Michael Moore. He's gonna try to eat one, but he hasn't done it yet. So there's still time.
Who should drink more Red Bull? It's a politician.
Well, if he considers himself a politician, I would say Donald Trump. He should drink Red Bull to fly away, give wings.
I'm sensing a little Trump hate there, but the answer is Ben Carson.
To start water skiing.
No clue.
Mike Huckabee. He says just as much brisket, but more water skiing in 2016.
Who should stop being so awesome?
Donald Trump.
Ooh, very close but wrong answer. The answer is Lou Dobbs.
To cry more.
I don't know.
Taylor Swift. She says it's great cardio. For me, panic attacks are my cardio.
Who should stop losing Academy Awards?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah! Oh. Winner!
That's the end of the show. Special thanks to Meghan McCain, Tom Shillue, Tucker Carlson, Remy Spencer, Brian Tully, Joanne and Katherine. I'm Greg Gutfeld, and I love you, America, even more.